Well, hello strange people, welcome back to the channel. Something a little bit different today. We're not on the moors, as you can probably see in the background. We're in some beautiful rolling Devon countryside on an old lane, an ancient road in the woods behind us over through the hill. A beautiful little valley down to our right, and I'll bring you back in a minute and tell you why we're here. Catch you in a mo. Just had to stop and wave me willy in the wind because I forgot to have a pee before I came out, and I was just looking at this bank. Isn't this beautiful? All of those hart's tongue ferns growing on this bank. Lovely, lovely little lane. Big beech woodland behind us. Lovely. So we found a little path through the woods. It runs parallel to the road, which is way down there now in a hollow way. That must be 25 feet below us. So really does show how ancient this road is. Well, that road is. We started off at a place called Lew Trenchard, at a church and a manor house, which is now a hotel, in which a man called Sabine Baring-Gould lived. Now, I'm not here to talk about Sabine Baring-Gould, but I'm here to talk about something he believed, and which I believe as well. If you want to learn more about Sabine Baring-Gould, and he's definitely an interesting character, and I say it every week these days, but he is fast becoming, God Lord above, that must be 40 feet below us now, that road. Anyway, yeah, I say it every week now, but he's fast becoming the best Dartmoor channel, and that is the Dartmoor podcast. And George, I've always been a supporter of the smaller channels, and even though his channel has grown bigger than mine now, I think you really should go, if you're interested in Dartmoor and its history, you really should go over and see him. He's well worth a visit. I think this is just ending in an overlook, isn't it? Which actually is quite good for the story we're about to tell you. So we'll stop and have a look at this. Flipping heck, that's
the end of the line.
That's a fair old drop, isn't it? So there you go. Beautiful rolling Devon countryside. And we're headed down towards those houses and the river at the bottom. This will give you a good overview really of what we're about to talk about. Wow, that's some view. Right, I will bring you back in a second when we made our way back to the road, which we obviously got to go to, because that's a good 50 or 60 foot drop there, sheer, pretty much. So a little context as to why we're here. In 721 AD, the Domnonii, who were the chief tribe of Devon and Cornwall at the time, the area was actually called Domnonia, which probably means people of the valleys. They gave the West Saxons a right bloody hiding, and the battle was called Hill or Hale. Nobody knows where it is exactly, but it's almost certainly in Devon. A few people have tried to say it's in Cornwall, and in a place called Camelford. Seems to be a favourite with some people, but that's almost certainly not true. But it stopped the West Saxon advance into Domnonia for around about 100 years. Just an interesting side, the king of Domnonia at the time was a man called Geraint, and there's every chance that he is the, well, every possibility that he is the Geraint from Arthurian legend, Sir Geraint. But I mean, obviously, if the Arthurian legend is true, which I might make a film on at some point, that was some 200 years before that. Anyway, we've got a hill to walk down, and I'll bring you back shortly. "1664" like it says on the window. It's got a little post box. King George post box. That's it, 2 houses. Some old barns. So as I said, the Battle of Hill or Hale pretty much put an end to the Saxon advance in this area for 100 years. Then in 1814, the Anglo Saxon Chronicle states that King Egbert of the West Saxons ravaged Cornwall from east to west. Whether that's true or not, whether it was all the way to the west of Cornwall, no idea, but I pretty much doubt it. He probably had a few raids into Cornwall. I've just noticed this bridge, although it's quite modern on top, it's actually got the original granite packhorse bridge underneath it. So that would certainly put the bridge into the Middle Ages. I didn't realise that. I didn't know that when I came here. So it's actually quite interesting. So from here you can clearly see, certainly on this stanchion, the original granite blocks of the Clapper Bridge, which would put it easily into the medieval period, if not earlier. So the bridge back there and this area is called Galford. Now, the Anglo Saxon Chronicle says that in AD 23, and I have to read this, the West Wales and the men of Devon, so that's the West Welsh, which is what the Anglo-Saxons called the people of West Devon and Cornwall, and the Devons, which is what they called the Devonians, fought at Gafulford. That was in AD 823. And Sabine Baring-Gould thought, and I agree with him, that this was Gafulford. Now he believed that the name Galford derived from the Celtic, Cornish, whatever you want to call it, galley, which is a holdfast, and ford, which means road, forth, sorry, which means road. Gallyforth. Other people think that it's Galolford, which means a tax or tribute ford. Don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I believe as is to be the proper name. Galolforth, tax tribute forth, could be. But there's also a mill here. We've just walked through the hamlet, which consists of two houses up there, a thatched cottage and a farm behind me, and a farm just over there. So what's that? 5 houses, 5 dwellings. There's a mill there, and could it be that the tax or tribute is actually tithe, and you brought your tithe for the church, which is just up there, to the mill? That's quite possible. Gallyforth, Galforth, I can see why Sabine Baring-Gould would actually think that. But anyway, so there was a large battle here in AD 823. We don't know if King Egbert was here, but in 825 King Egbert was in Crediton, and we know that because he signed some royal charters. And Crediton is, how far would you say Crediton was? 40 miles? Roughly 40 miles from here, north. And he was signing some charters. We know he was there, and he's also planning his expedition against the West Welsh into Dumnonia, into Cornwall eventually, I suppose. That was in 825. So I think, although the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle doesn't say who won the battle, they're always very good at saying if the Saxons won the battle. And I think we can infer from that the fact that he was in Crediton, 40 miles away, planning an expedition, and the fact but the Anglo Saxon Chronicle doesn't actually say who won the battle. I think we can infer that it wasn't the West Saxons. Took him a fair while, King Egbert, to take this area. There is another battle, supposedly, at a place called Hinxton Down, which is where I grew up in East Cornwall, and that was in 838. But we're going to do a film on that one sometime in the future, because I don't actually believe that the battle took place at Hinxton Down in Cornwall. This is a beautiful, beautiful area. This valley is actually really quite strange for West Country valleys, or West Devon, Cornwall valleys, in the fact that it's actually quite large at the bottom. You can't quite see. You can probably just make out the house over there, which is at the base of that hill. So that's got to be 100 yards away, and then we come across here and it's probably another 50-100 yards away before it starts going up that hill, and that hill's actually quite shallow, not very steep. So that's actually quite weird, because down here in the West Country we have what's called V-shaped valleys, sort of valleys shaped like that, and they're caused because we didn't have any sort of glaciers down here. Whereas if you go to the high country further north, they had glaciers, and you go to places like, well, the Lake District, obviously with its lakes. Well, you go into Wales, you go into the Peak District, Yorkshire. Their valleys are U-shaped, so they come down like that, cross, and then up. So these valleys are normally always made by the rivers. So it's actually quite strange to see quite such a wide valley as this one. It's got to be 200 meters wide. Why, I don't know. I'm no geologist. Anyway, we'll bring you back in a mo. Well, I think we're going to end the video here now. We just sat here and had a nice cup of coffee, chocolate mocha something or other. Old Asbestos Guts here managed to finish hers long before I could finish mine, but I spent my time musing about this place. The sound of battle. It wouldn't have been a huge battle, probably a few hundred men. It's big enough to get into the Anglo Saxon Chronicle though, so it must have been relatively important. Just trying to work out which way each side would have come to this. Whether the Cornish came down this hill, or the West Wales, or whether they came down that really steep-sided hill. I think they probably came from that direction. It's hard to know for sure. The border, the Tamar River border, the modern border, is around about 4 miles that way. The Anglo-Saxon burgh town of Lidford is again about 3.5 to 4 miles that way, but that is a slightly later town. So yeah, they may have just come up the valley, either side of the valley. The Saxons coming from the north, the dirty heathens, and the good people coming from the south.
Yeah.
The proper Christians. Right, we're going to make our way back now. You can see why they built this bridge here, because obviously in the storms of last week up on the road here, you can see the wash from the flooding. So it must have been quite impressive actually. Must have been quite impressive. Just out of interest, these little roads, there's around about 2,000 in Devon, 2,000 miles in Devon, roughly the similar sort of amount in Cornwall. By far the longest roads. A lot of people come down here, don't like them because they're so narrow. There are not many passing places, but I love them. Right, like I said, I'm going to leave the video here now. Don't forget to go over and watch George over on the Dartmoor podcast. I think he's just done a review. Oh, George, if you're watching, good luck with your annual. He's just released a book. I think I'm right in saying it's 2 years worth of his scripts and photographs and things like that. I think photographs, don't quote me on that, but he's called it, I think he's called it the 2022 annual, because he seems to do everything biannually. Right, got anything you want to say, Mrs?
Home time, I'm hungry.
And he's as always got nothing to say. Right, I'm waffling, catch you on the next one. Bye for now. Have you seen this road? It's hardly